My mother invited me over. Then my pregnant stepbrother's girlfriend wouldn't look at me. Family helps family, my mother said. Use your equity. He owed $62,000. So I reached for my phone under the table. I sat there across from my mother, waiting for her to laugh or correct herself, because there was no way she had just suggested I risk the house my husband and I worked for to pay off my stepbrother's student loans. But my mother wasn't joking. She had that careful, wounded look on her face, like she was already preparing to be disappointed in me. My stepfather stood by the sink pretending to clean a plate that was already clean. My stepbrother, Brandon, stared at his phone. His girlfriend, Megan, kept one hand on her stomach and looked anywhere except at me. That was when I realized this wasn't a conversation. It was a setup. The dinner had felt wrong from the moment I walked in. My mother, Patricia, had called a few days earlier and said she wanted everyone together. Nothing serious. Just dinner. Just family. She made it sound casual, but my mother never hosted dinner without a reason. My husband, Ryan, couldn't come because he was working late, and I almost used that as my excuse to stay home. But I already knew what my mother would say. She would say I was pulling away. She would say marriage had changed me. She would turn one missed dinner into proof that I didn't care about family anymore. So I went alone. The second I stepped inside, the air felt too polite. My mother hugged me too tightly. Gregory barely looked at me. Brandon sat at the table with his shoulders hunched, and Megan gave me a small smile that disappeared almost instantly. Dinner was quiet in that forced family way where everyone chews too carefully and avoids the real reason they are there. My mother kept asking about our house. If we were still happy there. If the mortgage felt manageable. If we were still thinking about fixing the kitchen. I told her we were saving slowly. She smiled and said, "That's good. It's nice to be stable." Stable. That word stayed in my head because in my family, stable never meant safe. It meant available. I learned that when I was young. When my mother married Gregory, Brandon came into our lives. He was only a little younger than me, and I never hated him. That's what people get wrong. They assume if you resent the way a parent treats a step-sibling, it means you hate the step-sibling. I didn't. We were just two kids thrown into the same house because our parents got married. But I learned quickly where we both stood. If Brandon needed something, my mother said he had been through a lot. If I needed something, she said I was old enough to understand. If Brandon made a mistake, he was overwhelmed. If I made one, I should have known better. Brandon got patience. I got expectations. I moved out young and built my life the slow way. Cheap apartments. Used furniture. Bills paid carefully. Groceries stretched until payday. I didn't have some dramatic success story. I just learned how to survive without waiting for anyone to rescue me. So when Ryan and I bought our small house, it meant more than just having a place to live. It was proof that something I built could finally belong to me. The house wasn't fancy. The kitchen was old, the floors needed work, and half the cabinets didn't close right. But it was ours. We had a mortgage. We had bills. We were saving little by little for repairs and maybe, eventually, a baby. My mother knew all of that. She knew we weren't rich. And somehow, she still looked at our house and saw a solution for Brandon. After dinner, nobody moved at first. Brandon stayed at the table. Megan stayed beside him. Gregory carried dishes to the sink, then lingered in the kitchen like he didn't want to be involved, but didn't want to miss anything either. My mother sat across from me and folded her hands. "Brandon is drowning," she said. I looked at him, but he didn't speak. "Drowning how?" I asked. My mother glanced at Megan's stomach before answering. "His student loans are crushing him." At first, I thought they wanted advice. Maybe help making calls. Maybe help figuring out a payment plan. That would have been annoying, but not impossible. Then she told me the amount. $62,000. I looked at Brandon. He finally set his phone down and said, "It got away from me." That sentence made something in my chest tighten. It got away from me. Like debt was some accident that wandered into his life while he wasn't looking. I asked if he had called the loan company. He said yes. I asked if he was on a payment plan. He said they were still figuring things out. Then my mother said, "That's not enough. He has a baby coming. They need a fresh start." A fresh start. That was always the phrase when it came to Brandon. No matter how many times he messed up, my mother believed he deserved another clean beginning. I said, "I'm sorry they're stressed, but I don't know what you expect me to do." My mother leaned forward. "You and Ryan could help clear it." I gave a short laugh because my mind refused to believe she meant the whole thing. "Clear it?" I asked. "As in pay it off?" "Yes," she said. The room went still. Megan looked down at her lap. Brandon's face turned red, but he didn't look shocked. That was how I knew they had already discussed this before I ever walked in. I said, I don't have $62,000. My mother's voice softened. But you have the house. My stomach dropped. What does that mean? You have equity, she said. People use that all the time. You and Ryan could take out a line or refinance. I'm not saying it would be easy, but family sacrifices. I stared at her. She said it like my home was an unused savings account. Like Ryan and I had bought it for the family to cash in when Brandon needed another rescue. You want me to borrow against my house to pay Brandon's debt? I asked. My mother frowned. Don't make it sound ugly. It is ugly. Brandon finally spoke. I knew you'd react like this. I turned to him. Like what? Like I'm some burden. You're asking me to risk my home. He shifted in his chair. Not risk it. Just use what you already have. That sentence hit me harder than I expected. What you already have. As if my house was just sitting there doing nothing. As if I hadn't worked for it. As if Ryan and I didn't still check our budget before repairs. As if being stable meant I owed everyone a piece of it. My mother said, you don't have children yet. Brandon and Megan do. Their need is immediate. Megan didn't correct her. She just kept her hand on her stomach and stared at the table. I said, a baby does not make his loan my responsibility. My mother's expression changed. The softness vanished. I raised you to be better than this. That hurt more than the money. Because no, she didn't raise me to be better. She raised me to be useful. She raised me to feel guilty whenever I protected something that belonged to me. I looked at her and said, you raised me to carry whatever Brandon dropped. She went quiet. Brandon scoffed. So this is about childhood? No, I said. This is about you asking me to put my marriage and my house on the line because you don't like the consequences of your choices. Megan finally looked at me. We're scared, she said. Her voice was small, and for a second, I felt bad. I wasn't angry at the baby. I wasn't even angry at Megan the same way I was angry at my mother and Brandon. I understood being afraid. But sympathy is not the same as surrender. I understand that, I said. But I'm not taking out debt for you. My mother started crying. It wasn't the kind of crying that made me worry about her. It felt like a tool she had been saving for the moment I didn't fold. She said I was jealous. She said I had always resented Brandon. She said I was punishing an unborn child because I couldn't let go of the past. I stood up. My mother reached for my arm. Sit down. We're talking. No, I said. You're pressuring me. Brandon muttered, so you're just leaving? Yes. My mother followed me to the door, crying harder. She said daughters don't walk out on their mothers. I told her mothers don't invite their daughters over to ambush them for money. Then I left. I sat in my car for a minute before driving home. My hands were shaking. I wanted to call Ryan, but I felt embarrassed, which made no sense. Maybe part of me still believed that if my family treated me like that, I must have done something to deserve it. When I got home, Ryan knew immediately. He sat with me at the kitchen table while I told him everything. I expected him to be angry, and he was, but not loud. He got very still. When I told him about the home equity, he said, absolutely not. 2 words. No debate. No guilt. No maybe we should help a little. Just absolutely not. I started crying then. I had stayed calm at my mother's house, but the second someone defended me without making me explain why I deserved it, I broke. Ryan said, your mother doesn't get to spend our future. That was exactly what she had tried to do. She didn't ask for help. She tried to spend our future and call it family. The next morning, my phone was full of messages. The family group chat had exploded. Brandon wrote that he had never wanted to embarrass himself by asking me directly, but he thought I would understand. He said he was trying to be a good father and just needed a chance to breathe. Megan said she couldn't believe I was comfortable living in a house with extra rooms while they worried about their baby's future. That line made me stare at my phone. Extra rooms. So now my house wasn't just equity. It was space they felt entitled to judge. Then my mother sent the longest message. She said I had been cold and cruel. She said money was not more important than blood. She said she hoped I never knew what it felt like to beg your own child for compassion and be denied. Gregory said nothing. His silence bothered me almost as much as my mother's words. He had heard the whole conversation. He knew what they asked. But he stayed quiet because silence let him pretend he was neutral. I didn't answer. Ryan told me not to respond while I was shaking, so I put the phone down and tried to get through the day. The messages slowed down by evening, and I thought maybe the worst of it was over. Then my cousin texted me privately. She asked if Megan was okay. I said, what do you mean? She replied, "Your mom said you refused to help with medical and baby expenses." She made it sound serious. I read that message 3 times. Medical and baby expenses. Not student loans. Not $62,000. Not home equity. My mother had changed the story because the truth made her look bad. I asked what else she had heard, and she sent screenshots from another family chat. My mother had written that Brandon and Megan were facing a crisis, that I had the means to help, and that I refused because I never accepted Brandon as family. Something in me snapped, but not in a loud way. I was just tired of being the villain in stories where I was the only one telling the truth. So I opened the family group chat and typed one message. Just to be clear, I was asked to take equity out of my home to pay Brandon's $62,000 student loan debt. I said no. If anyone believes this is a family responsibility, I'm happy to send you the loan information so you can contribute directly. I read it twice. Then I sent it. Nobody replied for 3 hours. After days of lectures, guilt, and accusations, the silence was almost funny. Then my Aunt Diane wrote one word. Oh. That was it. Just oh. But it said enough. It meant the story my mother told was falling apart. It meant people understood why she had left out the details. It meant the outrage didn't feel as clean anymore. After that, the group chat went quiet. My mother called me 6 times. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail saying I had humiliated her in front of the family. I listened once, then deleted it. Later that night, she texted me. "You had no right to make private family business public." I replied, "You made it public when you lied about it." She said I had changed since getting married. Maybe I had. Maybe being loved without being used changes a person. Maybe having one person in your corner makes it harder for your family to keep convincing you that standing alone is normal. I told her I needed space. She wrote, "Daughters don't take space from their mothers." I answered, "Mothers don't treat daughters like emergency credit lines." Then I muted her. For a while, Brandon didn't contact me. I thought maybe he was angry or embarrassed. A week later, he sent a message saying he was under pressure and didn't mean for everything to get so big. He admitted the amount was a lot, but never said it was wrong to ask. He never acknowledged what it would have cost me. I didn't respond. Megan said nothing. Gregory eventually sent a short message. He said he understood why I said no, but he hoped I could forgive my mother because she was scared for Brandon. I stared at that for a long time. Everyone was always scared for Brandon. Worried for Brandon. Ready to explain Brandon. When I was scared, I was mature. When I struggled, I was responsible. When I needed help, I was capable. That was the difference. I thought standing up for myself would feel powerful. I thought there would be some rush, some satisfaction, like I had finally won after years of swallowing things. Mostly, I felt tired. Tired for the girl I used to be, sitting at that same kitchen table, learning that love had conditions. Tired of being told to understand, share, forgive, and be patient while everyone else kept taking. Tired that my mother looked at the life I built and saw a resource for someone else. But underneath the sadness, there was peace. Ryan and I opened a separate savings account for the kitchen renovation. We put a small amount in it the next week. Nothing impressive. Nothing that would change our lives overnight. But when I saw the balance, I cried. Because it was ours. Not my mother's solution. Not Brandon's escape plan. Not proof that I was selfish. Ours. We started talking about the future again. Cabinets. Paint colors. Whether we wanted to try for a baby next year. Normal things. Quiet things. The kind of things that used to make me feel guilty because they meant choosing myself. My mother still tells people I abandoned the family. Some relatives have gone quiet around me. Maybe they think I should have offered a smaller amount to keep peace. Maybe they think exposing her was too harsh. And maybe that is the part one still struggle with. I could have helped Brandon make phone calls. I could have sent a little money. I could have softened my no. But I know my family. A small yes would not have ended it. It would have shown them where the crack was. It would have proved that if they cried hard enough, lied carefully enough, or brought up the baby enough, I could still be pushed. So I chose the word that used to scare me. No. Not because I want Brandon to fail. Not because I don't care about the baby. Not because I hate my mother. Because my home is not a debt solution. My marriage is not collateral. My future is not something my family gets to spend just because I was the one who managed to build it. Last weekend, Ryan and I looked at kitchen samples. Nothing fancy. Just cabinets, counters, simple things adults get excited about when they've worked too hard for too long. I ran my hand over one cabinet door and thought about my mother saying, "Use your equity," like the life I built was just sitting there waiting to be taken. For once, I didn't feel guilty. I felt sad, but clear. Maybe that is what growing up in a family like mine really takes. Not a perfect speech. Not a dramatic revenge moment. Just refusing to hand over the keys to the life you barely managed to save. So am I wrong for refusing to help pay off my stepbrother's $62,000 student loans, even with a baby coming, when my family says I'm the only one stable enough to help?